You're listening to The KYLO Show, the podcast where we talk about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole healthy families are going to save the world. And it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to The KYLO Show. We finally made it to the number 5 on the KYLO 5. This is the last one.
This is it.
Honor Heathy Boundaries.
There we go.
Which, I mean, is that the number one question that you always get?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we do anything on communication, if we were going to teach the KYLO 5, the first questions would be, what do I do with the upset people?
Yes. It's usually that's how it goes, and we have to tell them to wait. Because you put it at the end. Is that so that you have people waiting?
No, I don't.
It would be
actually.
strategic.
There's just so many other things that you have to keep them coming back.
Yeah.
I just keep them coming back all day. No, it's really because you have to have all the other things in place before you can set boundaries. Lots of people think that boundaries are getting rid of people from your life, and that's rejection.
Yeah.
That's not a boundary.
Right.
I can set a boundary with my mom because I have a lifetime of pain with her. Like, oh, that's not a boundary. That's you rejected your mom.
Yeah.
And so the language is confused there. If you're just going to say, I rejected my mom and I changed my goal to distance, then, there.
That's not what this show's about.
Yeah. But that would be the whole point of misinterpreting something.
Mm-hmm.
So when you set a boundary, you are really identifying that there is levels of access, and people that are on this side of the boundary have more access, and people on that side have less. But I never turn my love off. I never forget, the first step, which is I'm a powerful person and I control that. And my goal is connection. Mm-hmm. So boundaries broadcast the hope of reconciliation, but you still may not have the level of access that you once had when you helped my life thrive. When you drag all your drama over here, I have to find a place where that drama will work. I have CNN out there somewhere, like, okay, you guys, love you, praying for you, but you get no access to my time, energy, or attention.
Yeah. Well, I love the quick teaching of what boundaries are supposed to be. That was great. And that's what we're trying to do here, especially in the kind of framing of our KYLO University. Mm-hmm. And you nailed it, which is a lot of people are trying to figure out. We had a lot of high S's in our group. World, yes, we do. So what do I do with the upset people, which I'm high D, so I would be the upset people. Yeah. What do you do with me? Yeah. I married an S. Ben had to learn all of these things. So there's a lot of how and what and can I be successful in setting a healthy boundary, mm-hmm. and it not turning into rejection or the goal of distance or becoming to someone that doesn't have any boundaries. Mm-hmm. And of course, like we've been doing in the previous episodes, we're breaking it up into God, self, and others. Mm-hmm. So what does a healthy boundary with God look like? What does that mean?
Well, he's the designer, right? He's the designer of the universe.
Yes.
And there's structure and boundaries. There's limitations in all of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are looking for ways to defy the boundaries of gravity or of age, mm-hmm. or of whatever limitation we're not enjoying. It's been built into creation. So he says, like, who may ascend the holy hill of the Lord? You're like, well, him with a pure heart and clean hands. So there's a limiter right there. Like, you don't get to access him, mm-hmm. unless you set some things in place that allow your relationship with him to thrive. And he's very good at it. I mean, he's like very good at it. When Peter, his buddy, They've been camping together for 3 years. You know, this is a brother. He's a friend of Jesus, and he says, I'm going to be crucified. And Peter goes, whoa, no,
I got a knife.
no way. This is not a deal. We got a great thing. We probably should start a church by now. You know, we're gathering crowds everywhere. No way. And Jesus spins around on his heel and says, get behind me, Satan. Bam. There's a boundary. I mean, Sherry's been mad at me before. She's never one time called me Satan. You know, that's got to hurt your feelings, right? That's got to like, what did you just do? And what just happened there is Jesus said that thought, that perspective will not cross this boundary. It will stay over there. You can let go of it and you can come in here, Peter, but that mentality that seeks what man desires over what God desires, that stays out there.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of understanding of who God is again and again and again, realizing that he has boundaries. That's how you preserve health. That's how you preserve thriving. Is people who want to thrive get to come in here. People who want to watch thriving can do it from there. People that want to damage thriving can do it from out there.
So what about people that think God doesn't have boundaries?
They are deceived.
It's plain and simple. Yes.
Yeah.
I think the kind of the long suffering, the Jesus loves all, and he's somehow accepting of all things. Like that seems to be muddled more and more. Is that is Jesus? That is who God is.
Yeah. Well, I think that people again and again think that God's like them. Instead of, I search the scriptures looking for myself in the scriptures. Instead of I search the scriptures looking for God and then adjusting who I am to who he is. And one of those aspects is boundaries. It's going to always be a standard that I have to change in my life to become more like Christ. And that would be my ongoing discipleship boundary journey, working out my salvation is I hit another standard. I hit another limitation of how long I can behave like this until the conviction of the Holy Spirit says, come up, come up and be more like Christ. You're like, okay, well that is my maturing of in my life is I put childish things behind and I navigate myself towards the high calling of who God's called me to be. Those are boundaries. Those are successfully executed relational steps to enter into a place of more thriving for me spiritually.
Yeah, it's great. I love how you clarified that. Searching for me in the Bible. That's
it's I think the ridiculousness of I'm compassionate because I've lowered the bar for you is me trying to save my own life in this relationship because I don't want to be rejected by you. I don't want to be judged by you. So I've removed the standard until you're happy instead of preserved the standard of my life and be caring and loving of you. But I'm not going to communicate in any way, shape, or form that I'm going to participate in what it is that you're doing.
So, question about the boundaries for self, if that's the next level that we're entering, is that tied to self-control in some areas?
I think so. I think that if I'm going to be a healthy human being, then there are certain boundaries that if I don't set them with myself, then I'm breaking the idea of health. So if I eat too much, like I was traveling 220 days a year,
Yeah.
and breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, dinner meetings,
Of the favorite restaurants.
after the conference meeting. So this is 4 shots a day that I am eating. So I gained 30 pounds and I just wore it around. I didn't even know I was wearing it around until I stopped traveling. And then my food consumption went way down. So I was violating a boundary as to how much food I needed. And it was showing up on my body. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at the change in my body just that comes from respecting one boundary. Honoring one boundary in my life is I don't need that much food. I really don't.
It's true.
I don't. And now when I eat that much food, I feel bad. I just feel bad, like a little.
Yeah.
Get off me. Because everywhere you go, they're like, oh, you got to go here. This is the best restaurant in town. And then for lunch, oh, this for lunch, it's the best dinner. Oh, you got to try that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm game for good food. I like it. But too much of a good thing is bad for you. And not respecting that, like, I've worked with people who exercise too much. Like, they're just running. What are you doing? Running. Why? Just, I want to. Well, you're hurting yourself now. You're running so much that you're hurting your body. Why? There's a boundary there. There's a limit. I think, friends, there are limits with friends. Like, okay, what is okay in a relationship with a friend?
Yeah.
And then when are you injuring both of you because you've crossed this line? And if you're married, you're damaging your marriage and your family because you have passed a limit, a line, a boundary with your friend's involvement in your marriage, your friend's involvement in those conversations, in the details of the intimacy. You think that you're helping a friend by being overly involved in their personal life,
right.
And so I mean, there are boundaries that you protect about what you'll participate in, and there's boundaries about what you will offer someone.
The boundary circles, the kind of like the target, the smaller. In ourself, is it when we remove God from being the center, most intimate relationship? This is a boundary, a violation of both God and self?
That's a fast track. When I put a person in the God slot, and it could be me, like we were just
right,
like joking about, but if you put yourself in the God slot, or you put your spouse or one of your children or your job or your abilities or your money, you put something that does not belong in the God spot, it's usually something you're afraid of losing. And so you try to control your relationship with something you're afraid of. We worship what we fear. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, meaning I'm afraid of losing this. I'm afraid of losing my connection to Jesus. I'm afraid of losing the priority of health and well-being, of the presence of God in my life. So therefore, I will worship at the right source and then nourish my whole life. But if I'm afraid of losing money, or I'm afraid of losing my spouse, or I'm afraid of losing one of my children, or I'm afraid of losing my health, then I'm worshiping what I'm afraid of losing. And it then becomes the source of life for the rest of my life. And none of that is going to lead you to a life of love.
Yeah. So when it comes to other sin, we don't create a boundary because we're afraid of losing that relationship. So we either lower that, or we're afraid of losing control, so we might blow it up and hit the eject button. Is that typically how those boundaries get played out with our others' relationship?
Yeah, this is where, when I'm afraid of losing something that doesn't supply love, then all it supplies is more fear.
Yeah.
And then that fear shows up in all my relationships with people. And so I'm justifying mistreating my relationships so that I can serve what I'm afraid of. And so I spend too much time at work. I spend too much time at the gym. If freedom is what I worship, then I spend too much time on my hobbies, or I refuse to be controlled by my family or my spouse or whatever. And so I'm always, I have a justification for why I do what I do. And, you can't stop me.
Right.
You can't make a request of me without trying to control me. And if you try to control me, I'll go to war with you. So you're fighting fire with fire. You're fighting evil with evil. And so you just get more fire. You just get more evil. You just get more fear. And the anxiety around any human relationships are going to jack up my fear of the thing I'm so afraid of losing.
Yeah.
So anxiety and depression, confusion is going to be the hallmark really of my relationship with others.
Yeah. In with KYLO U or university, watching a lot of our higher S students transform from this place of a fear of losing a relationship, and so not having a boundary and just kind of absorbing, and then some of them, I think would admit to having kind of bitterness that's growing underneath the surface, and the others are miserable. And other students that we had, they're wired more similar to me, blowing up, trying to control something because I'm afraid of not having any control, and I'm afraid of you're going to reduce my life, and so it was really fun to watch them, the ones that were afraid to speak up for things, all of a sudden discover, like, we have the KYLO 5 designed for this reason, but becoming a powerful person, and then choosing love over fear, and then all the different KYLO 5 showing up in their relationships, and then boom, healthy boundaries gets to be put on display. And because they did such a good job of, starting at the beginning and working their way to this moment, the outcome actually produced something really beautiful, which is fun because we have a testimony of that. And Yi is a gal that has been in our world for a little while, and then she joined KYLO University this year. And so she's been on a journey. She's a newer Christian as well, which I love that she got saved and jumped right into this pond.
She did.
I don't know how she did that, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
But Yi is putting on display, someone that's not used to setting a boundary, but walking through the KYLO 5 and then setting a healthy boundary and then seeing what happens. So
yeah, and she really qualifies as someone who's been so afraid of conflict that she allows things to go on and ends up with stuff way worse than if she just would step into it. And she's gained the courage and the skill set to not be afraid of conflict, but actually understand how to manage herself through it. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from Yi.
Well, I think boundary covers all of, KYLO 5 though, right?
Okay,
I mean,
let's do that one.
like it's always kind of has to be baked in. Like I have to choose to want to establish a boundary first. I have to choose love because over in connection and communication. So I was thinking about, boundaries because it frightens me to be in conflict. I want to avoid it at all costs. I like being in the get along gang, you know, but like it all has to work together. I was referencing back to, Galatians 5:22. Like in choosing a boundary, I ask myself, am I doing this out of love? In stepping into this conflict, is it going to bring me more joy? Is it going to bring me more peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness? And then am I able to express it and communicate gently? And is there self-control? Because a lot of setting boundaries is about timing and being aware of how the other person is going to receive it, because it's so scary. It's always been in theory, but I think until I decided to be, powerful to lay down the boundaries, and like I've shared in some boundaries that are non-negotiable for me, that I was able to identify within myself as any attacks on my faith. And so learning how to communicate, I'm not going to let that boundary be crossed, because that is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You are the first round of KYLO University. So this is the practice round that we've been in all together, which is awesome. Can you share a little bit of why you decided to jump in? Because you've kind of had this, you got in on something that not any of those students were part of, which was this thing called the tribe that we did for like 3 years. And it was like a practice ground for KYLO University, if we're being honest. But you were in part of that, which was more of something, even the leaders that we've got, like you jumped into really our material straight into there. So when you had that, but what made you decide to do KYLO University since you had already had that? Like, what were you looking for to get?
I think when I was first introduced, it was just the first exposure. And so I wanted a deeper dive and just repetition and being able to build confidence and being able to learn the material so I could teach it myself. So I think when I first joined that group, it was when I first met everyone, like, who are these people? What is this language that they're speaking? Like, I didn't even know this existed. So it was so good. And I remember I wanted to take it into healthcare, into the hospital in the beginning, but I wasn't ready yet. I mean, I was still, for the last 3 years, working on my relationship with the Lord. And I think in this process and this journey, I've been putting the work into that. And so it's given me more confidence and, as the source. And of course, the university is application of the biblical principles. And so I didn't have that foundation first. So I needed that. So I kept showing up. But it's too good not to share. And it's a certain responsibility that I feel like I hold, that I've been gifted being a part of this community. And I do believe wholeheartedly in it, that the principles and the material will change, the culture in my relationship, in my workplace. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
What would you say is the toughest and most beneficial part of setting a boundary?
I think the toughest part of setting a boundary is when it leaves from your head to your mouth out.
The moment it happens.
And saying it. I mean, I can feel it, especially, the ones that are closest, because it's the most risky. I'm not sure what I'm going to walk into, how painful it's going to be, how scary it's going to be, and also what it's going to look like afterwards. But I can only control myself. So that's probably the toughest part. I mean, my heart starts beating, I get sweaty, and it's just working through that, because if I know that it's the truth, I need to step into that. The most beneficial thing about setting boundaries is just the transformation that it has demonstrated in my own life and in my home and in my relationships. And there's just more peace.
Which was the goal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if it wasn't for KYLO University, how doable do you feel like you would have been implementing this place of boundaries in your life? Because you came to our inner circle and you had that incubator, but what I've heard and seen is the application has been so much different through coming through KYLO University.
I think KYLO University gave me the confidence, and also just being with other like-minded students that also want to grow, and staying close to the fire, and us just encouraging each other. It's a special place and a safe place to be able to grow, and it's just neat to do life together.
Awesome stuff. I love Yee. She does a great job just facing the fear and doing it anyway, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I love that she's so transformed. She got born again, fell right into our hands, has been just going for it. I love that she's a brilliant medical professional. She works, with that group. She's just so concerned about people's burnout levels and really mishandling the anxiety of their lives as they care about other people. And she's, moving progressively into teaching KYLO 5 stuff to her coworkers and facing that fear and doing it, growing and having really interesting conversations. So it's fun to watch her grow. And I'm so glad that she was part of KYLO U.
Yeah. She gained confidence, like she said. That is what she got from coming to KYLO University through the teachings, through the transformation group. She's probably one of the most active participants in the Facebook group. She loves the community. And she said before, staying close to the fire. She's doing a great job of staying close and then giving it away. And so watching her do that, I love. And she's excited about it, which is even more fun.
Super cool.
So we're going to invite Ben and Sara on in just a moment. They are the other part of the KYLO University staff team that are kind of in the thick of things. Ben and I are instructors, and Sara's behind the scenes administrator. She's really is the brains of the operation on so many levels, but she got to participate in transformation groups along with Ben. So we're going to bring them in, and it's going to be fun.
Cool.
All right, well, we are back with who I promised, Ben and Sara.
Hello.
Hello again.
Yeah, love having you guys here. Can you jump in and tell them a little bit of what your role is for KYLO University?
Yeah.
You should start.
Okay. I'm the school director. So I am the lead organizer of all the things. I think my job is to take the vision that you guys have and create systems and structures and build things in order to support that and make sure it makes it happen, which I love. I love
Get her done.
Get her done.
Get her done.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sarah's incredible. She gives it feet, makes it walk. So my job, that made sense in my head, but my role in KYLO University this time around has been one of the facilitators, which is such a fun honor. I think lots of new messages coming out of me this round. And then I'm the main pastoral arm of the school as well. So I get to meet with every student and hear their stories and kind of help work them through stuff using all the KYLO principles. So that was very fun. And also transformation groups. We have something called transformation groups. I also ran one of those. Yeah.
You guys were a lot of fun to work with. I mean, Sara was also in all the transformation groups.
She was everywhere.
She wasn't always seen.
I was hiding.
Sometimes she didn't want to be seen, but she played a massive part in all of those and developing what we were going to do and go through. So, but I wanted to jump into the curriculum. We've been doing this on the KYLO show, kind of displaying how we've got God, self, and others. We did that for a reason. And, why do you think it was so beneficial that we lined it up that way? I mean, you guys we're instructors and kind of, as Ben put it, putting legs to everything. But what do you see the value in that lineup?
Yeah, I really love the way that Danny's described it, and even in our new kind of promotional materials, you'll hear this language a lot of, first thing we want to do is connect you with God. He is our source, right? Everything that we live from comes from that space. We let him solidify our identity and who we are. And once we have that solidified, we get to go and, can I connect with my own heart? Now that I know who I am, what does it look like for me to connect with myself, to love myself? Because from that space, once I know how to love myself well, that gives me the ability, that empowers me to love others. And that's where I'm seeing the impact of our relationships. I think oftentimes it can go backwards, right? Where we can be really self-sacrificing in that space of, I really need to love my families well, I need to love my children well, whatever that looks like. But then you recognize that there's that gap of, I can only love you to the ability that I love myself, and I can only love myself to the ability that I know who I am and know who I've been created to be, and that's the space where I get to connect with God. So,
Great.
Well said.
Yep.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think when we started looking at KYLO University and just all the different thoughts around it, the verse kept popping up. Love Lord your God with all your mind, heart, soul, spirit. There's something else that I think I'm missing. Strength. There we go. Love Lord your God with all those things, and love others the same way you love yourself. And it just seemed like two things. That's the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us. He said, everything shows up right here. Pay attention to this. And then it's the three most important relationships in our life. Is if this is off, everything else is off. If this is off with myself, so if me and God is not working, and then it shows up with me and myself, if that's off and having a hard time there and out of balance, it shows up everywhere else, because all those things then influence me and other people. So I think in the simplest form, it's the greatest commandment that we were given. So it's just an opportunity to take all the principles we're practicing here and put it there. So,
what's your take on that?
I concur. I concur. I think it is interesting how some people like to hop over loving themselves and just love others. But what it usually translates into is manipulation, control. And if you don't perform according to my satisfaction, then I punish you to manage you back into appreciating all that I'm doing for you. So you can't really love unconditionally unless your love tank is already full. And if he's my source, then you can be my target.
Yeah.
But if he's not my source, then you're my source and the image of my target. But I'm really giving to get an identity. So if I'm a loving father, that's who I am, then I need you to be a successful son, a successful daughter. I need you to do your spot so that I can affirm my identity through your life. So there's lots of looping that goes on when we hop over something. We are dysfunctional in the supply chain, and therefore it's going to generate anxiety, and scared people want control.
Well, if we were to have one last question for us to answer, what would you say, if you could, what you're most excited about in this next year? Because we kind of did our practice round, which rocked. So awesome. Good job. High fives all around. Yes. What are you most excited for, and why would you encourage our listeners to lean into going to KYLO University?
Good.
I just keep deferring to you. But, I can kick off this question. I think the thing we watched in this last round, which I'm just so excited to watch as we keep doing this over and over again, is when someone goes from a great idea, or I've caught the new paradigm because I read a book, I watched a course, I listened to an Instagram live. There's new ideas and new thoughts showing up in my head. When it goes from that to a lifestyle shift and a relationship change, that's what's really fun to watch. And I think what KYLO University is doing for us is it's bringing people closer to us. We're the closest to Danny, who's kicked off the messages and written the books and all this kind of stuff. So we've been around him for years. And so even just our proximity to Danny has done something to us. Mm-hmm. So doing that for other people, letting them get closer, is really what helps the transformation take place. So it's getting more connected with people and then seeing the transformation in their life and their relationship with God and people. It's just so amazing to watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fun.
I concur with that as well. I think we were really intentional with using the word transformation. And I think that's what we saw really happen in this past round of school. I remember when we were talking about what do we want to name these groups where we're expecting all of this change to take place. And I think it was actually your idea to say transformation group. And it's like once we heard that word, we were like, yes, mm-hmm. that's what we want. We want to see just transformation even outside of on a greater scale. When we say we want whole healthy families to save the world, that starts with whole healthy individuals. And I think we've seen that transformation take place. I remember with a specific student, we don't realize our lens that we see through sometimes, and it's those aha moments. And we get a lot of those in transformation groups where it's like, I realize that I've been seeing the Father through this one lens of a punisher my whole life. And now that filter has been removed, mm-hmm. oh my gosh, my life is transformed. My marriage is transformed. So cool. My families are transformed. So I think it's the transformation piece that I'm excited to see people get those aha moments. And mm-hmm. there really is such a grace when people choose to make the investment of time and finances of, hey, I am going to really go after this and pursue what it looks like to be a whole, healthy individual. And just seeing the partnership of the Lord come in, not only like through KYLO University, but even just the grace that comes upon their life when they've decided to, okay, I'm going to be a student, which can be a really humbling experience in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So
it's awesome.
I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah. These guys do a great job of running our school and making us look like geniuses over here. And I know you like to refer yourself as KYLO disciples, but you're really the engine of all this thing. And so I'm excited that people get to meet you, experience you, and learn from the transformation in your lives. You know, you've all had the same thing. So it takes a transformation to lead someone to mm-hmm. a transformation, and that's exactly what students will get mm-hmm. coming to KYLO U.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good challenge on our end, internally, and really developing this. And I think the feedback that I love the most from our students was, I signed up knowing that it was going to be good and I was going to get something, mm-hmm. but I didn't expect this. Mm-hmm. So to feel like we blew everyone's expectations out of the water, it just, which is why we're so excited to go big.
Mission accomplished.
Let's do it again.
Because we want to keep doing it. And that's the whole thing of the KYLO show is whole healthy families are going to save the world. And KYLO University is really helping us kind of disciple you into becoming a whole healthy person. Mm-hmm. And so to be so close with all of us, I mean, we've got our hands all over you and we are working with you. And they're doing the work, but we're right here guiding. And that's a different level than we've ever been able to mm-hmm. do at Loving Our Purpose, is to really walk with you this closely. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really fun component to add. We've had different things that we've added throughout the years, but this is the one that we, as a whole, our staff team gets to walk with you this closely to see your life transformed, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys. Looking forward to this next year.
Yep.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great.
And hopefully we'll see more of you joining us at KYLO University, which you can check out KYLOUniversity.com for more information. We're going to have all sorts of things this summer that are going to help you feel like a genius for signing up to joining us on your road to transformation. So thank you for joining us on the KYLO Show. And remember, whole healthy families are going to save the world.
Thanks for listening. Never miss an episode of the KYLO Show by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. Don't forget to submit your questions and testimonies to thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding, co-produced by Ashley Beck and Anna Hill, sound engineer and edited by Taylor Silk, and show promoter Krishna Zamora. Don't forget, whole healthy families gonna save the world.